Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming into our very first event of Broadway Malyan Singapore think tank. So this is going to be a series of talking and discussion about a lot of stuff that is exciting and relating to our design practice and so on. So warm welcome for everyone, for our fellow designers, colleagues, friends, and uh, all of great people, yes, in Singapore. So I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists. So myself, my name is Aji Brahmono. I am an associate director from Broadway, Singapore, and design lead on architecture department. And from my right side is Professor Johanes Widodo. All of us knows he's one of our lecturer or professor from our colleague in Indonesia last time until now, our colleague in Singapore. So being our really the master, the teachers of us. He's also a founder of a master program on heritage conservation from National University of Singapore, and you can Google him. He's got a lot of things happening as well. So give applause to Mr. Professor Johanes Widodo. And second one is Madam Choon-Fah Ong. It's a real estate and retail specialist, and he's now in the Fraser Centrepoint Asset Management. So give applause for Madam Choon-Fah Ong. And Madam Ratianah is really one of our special guests as well, because she is the owner of Kebaya by Ratianah. She is actually the staying in Kampong Glam itself. So we can learn about Kampong Glam from deep down from her as well on this discussion. So keep applause for Madam Ratianah. And the last and not least, Monique Suksmaningsih, our urban designer and practice principal from Broadway Malyan, Singapore. So I'm just gonna start with a presentation from our practice principal, Monique Suksmaningsih. Please give applause for Monique Suksmaningsih. Thank you.
Thank you, Aji. Welcome, everyone. It's really, really great to see a lot of old friends coming over and gathering here today. I think we're really going to have great sessions today. Just a little bit about Broadway Malyan for those of you who don't know us. We are an international business. We do master planning, architecture, and interior landscape. But we don't do engineers. We partners with a lot of some of you as well. And we have been part of a Kampong Glam community for 18 years now. So in fact, today is our 18th year anniversary. And we've been here since 2007. So that's where we go for lunch. We will celebrate birthday, farewells, and all gathering with colleagues as well. And we're part of the community. So I thought to, about Kampong Glam. I thought to maybe talk about Kampong Glam from BM's perspective, like BM's POV. So I was gonna look into like some of our projects and how we take sort of inspired by Kampong Glam and how we kind of relate to that. So I thought the first strategy that we wanted to bring is how public realm and placemaking can be the brand signals. And in the case of Kampong Glam, like how the completions of some of the major catalysts at the early stage, like the Haji Lane, the Malay Heritage Center, and how the pop-up events, the spaces, how that catalyst can be like the places to bring people together and to also give a bit of like for the communities. So, sorry, just go to the previous slide. So this is a project in Calgary. This is one of our regeneration projects. So Calgary was one of the first, East Village, Calgary, one of the first settlement in Calgary in Canada. And then during the suburban era, and then it got cut off. And how it kind of like revitalized, I think, the strategy that I thought kind of interesting as well. We pick on how to revitalize Calgary, we need the whole East Village, we need the whole Calgary to be part of it and to support it. So we took like early catalyst to a smaller investment, which is like more connections, how people could actually pass by the river walk, which is one of the early stages as a floodplain as well, but it's also allowing people from the others neighborhood to pass by and cycling to work through the East Village. And that's where people started to think this is the place. And then with the early catalyst, the plaza, the bridges, like the connectivity, the cycling, the open space, and people started to think that okay, like this is part of Calgary, part of the city. It's not forgotten anymore. It's connected, and I think this is where we were looking at the early phases of the revitalizations as well, and how we take the heritage. Like this used to be the settlement, right? And then it got become derelict, and then it becomes like places for petty crime and drugs uses. And then how we actually bring in the heritage, the proud of East Village, and how that becomes like the soul of the developments. And also about the events, right? Because this is about like, and as in Kampong Glam as well, that the places, we create spaces, and how the placemaking can be the brand. The placemaking, not just in hard placemaking, but also about the self, about the community. And then I thought the second strategy that we wanted to talk about relating to Kampong Glam is how we craft a vision with storytelling, how we capture specialism about the community and culture through space, activation, communication, storytelling. It's all about storytelling. Like we love storytelling. And I think same with Kampong Glam. Kampong Glam is not a static. It's like it's always evolving. It's a place where it tells history. It tells history through the community. It tells history through the heritage as well. And in our part of our retail strategy and part of our sort of like approach to a retail project as well, we try to capture what is the choreographed journey. Like I'm an urban planner. If you think of Kevin Lynch, 5 images of the image of the city, we have like the path that moves people, like Haji Lane, the landmarks like Sultan Mosque, where like at that Busora Street, where every tourist TikTokers will stop and take a photos. The notes, like where the events are happening, the district, what the identity of the whole district, and the edge as well, like what's the boundary of the areas. But that could also become the arrival experience. So we are also looking at when we look into like retail project, that's also something that we are also looking at. What do you see? How do you craft the image? How do you craft the landmarks? What people being memorable of? And so we're also like looking at like how we reimagine history. And I think in places like Kampong Glam, where the history is already there, there's a lot to to tell the story about. And so so this is like the evolutions of like the storytelling, how we create like a retail strategy, like a retail urbanism. Here we're talking about retail and the involvement, and how storytelling is important in the narratives. So, and I thought that the third one to talk about that is it's all about people. So we talk about placemaking. There is the placemaking for the people, but how do we do placemaking by the people as well? So this is the case study in Surabaya. This is in Kampung Doli, which used to be the biggest red light district in Southeast Asia, and then overnight it was shut down. So it was the highest revenue in the city, and then it was shut down overnight. In fact, this is a project we work with UKFCDO as part of the Global Future Cities project, and there's a lot about like GETC, like gender equality, how creating like a regeneration that is actually for the community, a sustainable community. So in Kampong Glam also, I think we talk about master plan that is organic. How do we create something that is organic? How do we bring the soul of the places into the approach? So here we do like a continuous engagement with various community groups and other stakeholders. We initiate and sustain exchanges and dialogue. So I think that is also where we feel that that's the something that could actually create this long-lasting, like a sustainable retail areas, like for tourism as well. So in this approach, when we come together and we created a wayfinding with the community. So we don't come from top down. This is the arrival street. This is the arterial road. We ask them, what do you see your neighborhood as? So we've mapped out like what's the point of interest in that places, and so it's a storytelling from them because these are generations that has been there, and they have a lot of memorabilia. And there's a famous songs that was written in the corner of the street, so that becomes something that we wouldn't know if we don't actually hear what the community are saying. So in our strategy for this development, for the tourism developments, we engage them from the start of the visioning. So with that, they are actually feeling the ownership. And I think when you change that and you give that to the people, the voice of the people, and that becomes like something that is like, everything else, it falls apart, like it falls in place very easily. So what's interesting as well, we're crafting the brand like with the communities. So we are asking, what do you see yourself? How do you want yourself to be seen by the other people, by Surabaya, by the world? So we're creating like, what do you see yourself as a color? What do you see yourself as like as the narratives, as the attitude as well? So we're crafting the brands together with them. So in fact, a lot of like the brands were developed together with them, and then we created this as part of the placemaking strategy. And we're also looking at, master plan. It doesn't just stop in the physical changes, but we're also looking at how the places, the strategy, and this one is we were also working with EY at that time, like how we can also get the entrepreneurship strategy as part of the retail growth. So we're looking at training, upskilling, reskilling of the communities, and these are like from the kampung, like so they didn't have the skills, so how we can get them to digital marketing. At that time we are partnering with Meta, with Smesco, with Telkomsel, and that kind of like creates upskilling for them. So it's when we have created that, and then this was working with them together. So this was part of the brand that we developed together with them, and then it becomes an apron. And we also have the opportunity to bring her to Orchard Road in Singapore. So suddenly this becomes like a portfolio as well for the community, and you have portfolio in Singapore as a tourism, like a Kampong tourism. So that's kind of like giving like an uh, elevated strategy as well for them. But of course, with like the tourism strategy and the mobility, the micro mobility as well, and how the before and after of the place branding effect. But I think what's actually pretty powerful is how the when they believe they can do it themselves, and when they're part of when they're part of the process, they support the journey. I think that's really when we can go far. So back to Kampung Glam, like we've been here for 18 years, right? Like we here every day. We come to this place every day. Like you see, this is where we were still looking very young. So of us looking young. And that's the view from my desk. Like this is the view that I see every day. This is the place where we celebrate people. We meet together, and we are very proud of being part of Kampung Glam. We take our clients, like every time people coming over, we'll take them to places like that's when we took the clients from the Surabaya city government and the Ministry of Tourism, and the Teh the Halia, that when I used to work late for COVID, because now we have choice, we can work from home. But when I used to work late, that's where my go-to place for supper. So yeah, so I think that's wrapping up my talk.
Fantastic, Monique. Thank you so much. That's really setting up our talking point for today. Actually, when we start this conversation few months ago, I thought myself like what kind of like subject that is really interesting for us as well, and we always see Kampong Glam as our like Monique said, lunch place and a place where everyone go. But actually, if you think truly, it's one of the places that everyone from all over the world wants to see when they go to Singapore. So it becomes really tourism destination. Although if you see that is actually is a row of shop houses, but really becomes like a international tourist attraction. So this is something that now in my mind and hopefully could trigger our discussion of this question about what can we learn from naturally evolving retail districts. How do they succeed or fall short in shaping meaningful urban life? So I would like to start the question uh, to the panelists. In this first segment, is about the complex in context. Yeah. So for Madam Choon-Fah, by the way, this picture is very interesting because actually on the right hand side there is Madam Ratianah's shop.
On the desk.
Yeah. So it's brilliant image. It's surprisingly when because I just went to Madam Ratianah's shop yesterday. I was like surprised. Oh, I put these photos just now actually the presentation. So it's amazing. Yeah. So Madam Choon-Fah, a question for you. What Kampong Glam means to you? You can answer with your slides as well.
Okay, well, Kampong Glam, I spent a day, well, an afternoon, right to the evening in Kampong Glam. I just wanted to see what is life like in Kampong Glam because I'm truly an outsider. It's not like Prof. Widodo, Madam, who live and know all about heritage. I'm really an outsider, an insider in the perspective that I'm Singaporean. And Kampong Glam belongs to me, as it does to every Singaporean. And I'm really proud of Kampong Glam. Every time I've got visitors, I will bring them to Kampong Glam, especially if they're American or they're Westerners and not from this part of the world. So the first thing is, it means the Sultan Mosque. That's a Malay royalty. That's where it all started. And that's so precious. Yati Tariq. We have the murals, we have the carpet shops, we have textile shops. And then we have Haji Lane, where it's really for the tourists, and at night it comes to life. And in the afternoon, it's really quite dead. Yeah. And yeah, I was there when I took this photo. One of the fathers was telling the daughter, don't stop, don't buy anything, it's a tourist trap. And pulled her away. Okay, then the next. It also means culture to me, not just the built and the hard environment, but it also means an intangible essence. Yeah, both the local Muslim, Malay, and there's also some Chinese. If you can see that bordering on the North Bridge Road, on Sabong Kanto, on the complex, you have this second-hand store and some old stores. It's all talk to me about young people who wants to talk about sustainability. And my favorite Mada books. So I always bring Digo down to Mada books. There's so much that we do share about a tour of the mosque, then what is it really like, and to get into Mada bookstore. Now this boy, he's amazing. He was walking with his parents, and he wanted the ice cream in there. But he did dare to ask, he walked up and down, until the mom spoke to him, and he got his ice cream. He was so happy, waiting patiently for it. And a French bakery. It talks to me of creativity, of young startups, for people's dreams to be their own, to own their own business. And this tree is amazing. In the evening, see the men rushing into the mosque to say their prayers. A group of senior men just lingering there. And then women and children below that tree, just having some time together. So it speaks to me of community, also about the tensions, the survival of the traditional crafts that we had. How is it changing now? Are we over tourism? What is the identity of Kampong Glam? That there's something so precious that we need to preserve, to continue on the tradition, and yet at the same time, there are market forces. I mean, these days people talk about meeting bands. So gentrification and all that. So where do we find that balance? Where do we find that soul of Kampong Glam? As Monique said, the soul of that place. So Kampong Glam really means us. It belongs to all of us. And we need to co-create, we need to take that ownership, I think, to preserve Kampong Glam for what it is. And I really have a lot of admiration for you to hold up that traditional craft that we have in Kampong Glam that is so precious, that really belongs to all of us. Yeah. But I only speak, but you do the hard work and the community that does that. So it also speaks of what Singapore is, a microcosm of Singapore, the respect that we need to have for one another in order to live together harmoniously. Entrepreneurship talks about family and also speak to me about dreams for the future.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. What about you, Prof. Johanes Widodo?
Well, I'm not Singaporean, so when I came to Singapore 25 years ago, but I became Singaporean 15 years ago. All right? So, and what things, I'm a historian. So I look into this place, not on the present layer only, but I'll look into the deeper layers. And I found out that actually around 1,000 people already live here before the arrival of Thomas Stamford Raffles. So Kampong Glam is the place where Thomas Stamford Raffles, Farquhar, and Wan Sepoy met and shake hands and raise the British flag. And that's happened in the Crawford Road, now in the corner near the ARP gantry. And that time, there's already a marketplace. So the Tumenggung actually met them there, but not in Singapore River. There's a lot of things that need to be corrected. And even Professor John Mixick found some evidence of the old palace long before the 19th century, maybe from the 16th or 17th century. So it's a very old place. So when Thomas Stamford Raffles came here and decided to build another center near Singapore River and Padang, they recruited around 1,200 people from this place, right? So this is the fact that this is already well-known place, not just Malay, but from Riau, but also the Bugis is already here. There's also the Hokkien, also the Teochews, the Hakkas, and maybe also some Parsis. So it's very cosmopolitan, and the cosmopolitanism of this remained here. So Kampong Glam is about historical layering. So we cannot see that place as a tabula rasa. The problem is when URA start to do this land sale and then reprogramming and then moving people out. Even later, when it's become branded as a tourism destination, palm trees came because of Pamelia. No, I don't mention names. All right. To brand that, and then it's become like a tropical paradise. So it's become like a commodity. So the so-called the commodifications happen. The real people gone, including my good friend, Pak Badruddin. Actually, I bought this one. See, that is a box. It's Baghdad Street number 7. Now probably it's a cafe. I just walked 15 years ago into his shop. And then I saw this. And they say, Pak Badruddin, what is this? Okay. So I told you, how much is this? I said, no, it's free for you. You just pick up one and immediately put in my head. And then what is the difference of this with the other, say, Pechi, right? You got a Pechi or Songkok. You see, you cannot fold this. It takes about a week to make this in that shop. They say, well, if you buy the made in Malaysia or Indonesia, China, that is very cheap. It's $25. This one was $80 that time, 15 years ago. And I asked him, I asked, where are you from? Well, I was born in Singapore, but my father was from Pariaman. So that's why they use the Singgalang Jaya is the name of the mountain in West Sumatra. And his father is a good friend of Zubir Said, the composer of the national anthem of Singapore. So you see all these connections with the regions. It's not just about Peti, but this type of Songkok is also Songkok wear by Sukarno, wear by people during the independence time in Indonesia, not the cheap one, right? But also very different from the Malaysian types. So it say that this is another proof that Singapore is part of the so-called the Nusantaran networks. But when the gentrification happened, most of the people changed. Most of the trade changed. It's gone because the son doesn't want to continue. He wants to study computer science and so on. And he tried to ask the assistant to continue, but the assistant cannot go on. So last time I was there, I think a few years before the COVID, I was very sad because I said, wait, what's happened to the shop? I met with his daughter, and his daughter, our daughter-in-law, said, my father passed away. So we try to clear up all these things, and then we're ready to solve the place. So the problem with Kampong Glam, I think, is about how to maintain, not just about placemaking. Placemaking is easy. But all your cases, for example, in Doli, in Surabaya, I still have a batik from Doli. It's okay. And also in Calgary and so on. You still have people there. But here, maybe only, even Hidayah Hamid is not there anymore, the Gudung Kuning.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just somewhere roaming around. Maybe only you staying there.
No.
No, Kampong Glam Cafe at the corner.
Hidayah Amin has a museum.
It's a museum, yes.
Yeah.
And then the Saban Menanti,
Only left one.
only left one of the three.
Sister. Yeah.
And then one time it's become Little Turkey. Especially after the September the 11th. You know why? After that, the Arab people doesn't want to go to US anymore. It's very difficult to go to US because they're US enemies, right? So Singapore has become the choice to get the medical tourism. And then you have the Raffles Hospital there. So you have a lot of Arab, and then of course the local cater that to the Arabs people, and the Turkish and so on. It's become Little Turkey. Then, now it's changed again. But the present development, I'm very glad when URA initiated the place planning, bottom up, and start by at least by asking around, like the cultural mapping. And actually that one is my first Master of Architecture students, Architectural Conservation student, Kardinia, Indonesians. Now it's work for URA, who did this cultural mapping things. And then URA used this as a pilot project, is trying to do a placemaking. But I think the next step is not just placemaking. We have to change our mindset about making. We start to think about placekeeping. How to keep this. Yeah. Because a breeding ground cannot become a breeding ground if it's too short. And the problem with Singapore, everything is too short. Especially the tenure.
Okay, great.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
we can discuss that
Exactly.
later about this problem.
And what about this, Pak? I'm curious about this because when you send this.
Yes, this is 1986. Margaret Sullivan did, and this Henry Wong and Michael Neo going around Singapore and looking into the cottage industry, because the assumption even in 1986 that this cottage industry cannot be survived. But then they're still very optimistic at that time, 1986. So they wrote this book and mapped out all this cottage industry in Singapore, including Kampong Glam. And it's quite thick, the mapping of that book. And say, okay, so that's why the title is become Can Survive Lah. So if we republish this, it should be called Cannot Survive Lah. It's all gone, right?
And this one?
And then this one is something that maybe is also related to the story about Kampong Doli and so on. There is a certain methodology that it's possible actually to bring this back to regenerating, but not just regenerating, but I think the most idea, actually I'm jumping the gun because the last question, we should think about degentrifications. Bring people back to Kampong Glam. Children, elders live together as a community, a core community. Then let the foreigners, newcomers come in, but you need to develop a core community. So you should not move out, whatever happened. And then you should try to convince your family or other to come back to Kampong Glam. So at least if we can have around 1,000, just like what happened during the beginning of the history of before Thomas Stamford Raffles, probably we can have a big chance to make Kampong Glam a normal Kampong Glam, de-gentrified Kampong Glam. Yeah, and then we can reverse not just reverse, but revitalize, but not looking into the building, but revitalizing the people, the soul of the place, which is missing.
Okay, let's check with Madam Ratianah. What do you think about
What is Kampong Glam to me?
Yeah, what's Kampong Glam
I
to you
grew
as well?
my business in Kampong Glam, so it is very, very, very close to me, because from a small shop, which is like a room, like that, I grew up a few, other shops. I did move about because it's not easy to get places in this Kampong Glam area or Arab Street area, and then until now, and thank God, I have stayed there for more than 15 years. Okay, then I was I have the small shop in the middle, and then slowly I grew up the business, and then I am able to take the next shop, which is actually under one unit. Yeah, but the landlord has given me the opportunity to grow my business there. So it is very I would say I'm fortunate. I'm already there for 20 years, and I think there is a lot other shop business owner who is, I think, more than 20 years. There's a lot of stories from them that you have to uncover how they survive and they grow together, in Kampong Glam area. And why I choose Kampong Glam is that instead of, the usual business owner will go to Geylang, go to Juchet, but I feel there is two iconic landmark there. It is the Sultan Mosque and, of course, the Istana Kampong Glam. So these two is actually the reason why Kampong Glam is there. Yeah, the reason why Kampong Glam is there. Because as a Malay Muslim, Sultan Mosque is our place of prayers. So, and the Istana is our heritage. So I think as a Malay Muslim, and I've seen that a lot of our local people who have started their business there since like way before the Arab people, they like the Toko Aljunied, there's all those nasi padang, they all started from there. So I think it is central, and I think it is very special for me. Kampong Glam is how I grew up my business and where I get known with my customers.
So how do you, over the years, right? How have the people who come to Kampong Glam changed? Do you think?
Change, yes.
Is
Okay.
it like more local last time and now it's more international, or?
I would say my grandmother bring my mother to Kampong Glam, to Arab Street to buy fabric. And my mother bring me there. And I also bring my daughter to buy the fabric there. So I started my business small. So all the shopkeepers know me. All those fabric shopkeepers. So they saw me grow, and they're happy to help me in any way. So I can, even now, I can go inside the shop and say, I need this fabric. I pay you later. They say, go out, never mind. Don't worry, Ratianah. Go ahead and take whatever you want. So that is the trust and the kampong spirit that we have. And I get my materials from there because I believe I have to support them and they support me. So this is how the business grow within the community, which I think it is quite important. Not sourcing cheaper, but sourcing quality fabric that we have here. And then with all those shopkeepers, they have I will hunt for vintage fabric. That is, that is my where I got my fabrics for the Kebaya. Okay, so these shop owners will tell me, okay, I have upstairs, Ratianah, come up. I will bring down all the fabric for you. And that's where all the treasure for the Kebaya started.
Fantastic. So I think from discussion on this first segment, I can say that the romance of Kampong Glam is drive through the core of community and also the authenticity of the place, right? So that makes everyone wants to go there and feel, own the space as well.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So now we have second segment. It's about the retail urbanism without the master plan, which is quite interesting. I would like to ask first to Monique. Does Kampong Glam complex function well as public space, do you think? Or does it struggle to connect physically or socially with the rest of the area?
I think Kampong Glam does function well as public space, like with the events and how we talk about we talk about placemaking for the people, but placemaking by the people as well. So I think we do also have that spaces in Kampong Glam where it connects not just people who's visiting Kampong Glam, but also like a wider events, like for example the Singapore Architecture Festivals 2 years ago. We were part of that event as well, and how that also bring people together and connect people with the history of Kampong Glam. And Madame Jamal was telling that she was also curating on the journey and the roots, and that's kind of like reconnecting people to the heritage of Kampong Glam, right? So I do think that it also connects socially and physically, but we also have the challenge that with the barriers, with the edge, like the edge of the Kampong Glam, the core of the Kampong Glam. I mean, in urban design, with the road constructions, I mean, that edge does have like a severe, we used to walk around like blue jazz. Now it's a little bit like a little bit unpenetrable from that side. And how do we overcome that? There's the physical barrier, but also how do we overcome the challenge of the over-tourism. Like we are part of the Kampong Glam. We're not in the Kampong Glam core area, but we have been here for 18 years. We're part of the community. We're there every day. And these days we see like tourist bus will stop in front of the prawn noodles, and then they will go to Haji Lane, and then they will go again, and how do we also engage, I think, how do we also create the connections also with the people around Kampong Glam, like around the barriers of the Kampong Glam, like us, because we are there every day, right? Also, like, we are the people who visit the place. It's part of our daily life too. And so I think also, like, how do we balance that? I mean, we used to go to Blue Jazz was our local pub previously, but now we can't even get a place to like, and when we come like a big group, like, can't get a place, so we started drinking in the office. So I think that's sort of like, how do we meet that balance, I think, with the connections physically and socially.
Thank you. What about Madam Choon-Fah? How does retail that evolves naturally over time differ from planned retail clusters? What works better and what gets lost? You have images for you to
Oh, yeah.
answer as well.
I mean, Kampong Glam is like, it's planned to some extent by URA, and yet because a lot of them are strata owned by individuals, so they don't have a plan in terms of tenant mix. It's not curated, it just happens. So I love the textile shop. That's where I bought materials from my wedding and had it sold. So it has got memories, collective memories for me. And this cake shop, the best Swiss roll. You get long queues during the day, but in the evening, it closes already. So it becomes very quiet when you walk around it. And and then it talks about dreams of how the young people reinterpret that retail. And this what I have here is, yeah, and spilling out onto the streets, which I think is really nice. This alfresco dining that we have where people get together, it's a bit messy, but it's good to be messy sometimes, not too sanitized. Well, what I've shown here is actually the Aliwal Urban Arts. Any one of you attend that? No? Oh, yeah, fantastic. Do you like it? Yeah, it's kind of a bit edgy, right? So I used to be on the board for Arts House. So we got organized things. I remember once we had, singing in the carpet shop, poetry reading, arias, and you talk to the shopkeepers. And then you get the younger people to understand, hey, there's life, there's a story here. And this is the Aliwal Arts Center, where all kinds of arts happen. And the artists have given, they don't have to pay market rent, it's subsidized rent. So this is what we do. When I was surprised when walking there that night, the street, Aliwal Street, was really quiet. But this place was packed with young people. So you've got pockets of very quiet places. There's the day economy and there's a night economy. And some streets that you walk through, it's just absolutely dead. And some like Haji Lane. Yeah, the next one, is it the next one? Yeah, Haji Lane is packed with blue jazz and you just can't get through. It's just too many tourists. So this is what happens. So is it something good? Is it something bad? Is that something that we can curate? I think that's because of the market demand. And the market will dictate what it is. If you look at Chinatown or even in Kampong Glam, some areas are taken over by the chain store for those that are not authentic to the area. But if you can pay a higher rent, and it's the owner who decides because he needs to have a higher return. So I think, to me, it is a balance. If you over-curate it. But the more we have got, because I sit on the board I chair the Fraser Centrepoint Trust, so we own a lot of the largest suburban malls, 4 of the 10 largest suburban malls. We are able to curate every shop. And for some shops, we actually take a lower rent because we find that it is important. And there are some areas that we give up as libraries, as part of that community service. So we are able to curate that whole experience, so to speak. And now malls are no longer like a place where you go do your transactions. It used to be like, we want our malls to be third place. But now with work from home, we want our malls to be the second place so that people come to our malls because they feel that this is their place where they feel comfortable. So we co-create a lot of things with them. So we are able to do that. But here, I think because of the structure of the market and the dynamics of rent, investors wanting return, this is something that we cannot control. And I think also to some extent, there were instances where I hear that landlords, they want to charge a lower rent because they wanted to keep that heritage tree. But in terms of the property tax that you have to pay, it will be marked to market. So you have to pay, even if you charge a lower rent, you will be charged. For your tax purposes, it will be marked to market. So there are all these things that we need to consider. How do we then work around it?
But do you think, it's out of my curiosity, do you think we can curate what happens in Haji Lane, for example? Like, is there any departments or something that really manage the whole complex?
I think the community,
Yeah, but where is the community?
Yeah.
Because it's hydrophonic community
Yes.
without roots.
Yeah. So I think everybody needs to take a role on it. But if you look at your business, you're very resilient because you have a vision, you have a mission that you want to upkeep that. But at some time, people retire and the next generation don't want to take over. So perhaps one way is we don't celebrate our crafts as much as we should. But if we were to engage the next generation to pick up these traditional crafts again, then that interest will rise. And I think that tension and that balance, to me, one of the solutions, an important solution, is the community. The community has to be, to say that, well, we want this and we're going to make it happen. It's like what you have done as one person, and supporting the rest of the community and the community supporting you. So you form an ecosystem, and that's going to impact the market forces. So rather than you leave it as one-dimensional. So we all have a role to play, and for us, it's like we have to patronize, the businesses and yeah. So everyone has a role.
But the community, the kampong spirit. Yes, that's the kampong spirit. Yeah.
What about you, Madam Ratianah? It's a question for you. Have you noticed any change in how people walk around shop or spend time on your shop over the years?
Yes, of course.
Is the
It
place
is,
different now compared to before?
different. Even let's say in Busra Street, it used to be a residential area, and actually the bazaar, like Gelang Bazaar, start from there because of the business woman. I say homemakers. They are the one who start the business selling kueh outside their house because they see the potential of the people going to the mosque. They say let's make kueh and then sell outside, and that is their initiative, how they started their entrepreneurship. They make kueh, and then that's how the bazaar start. But now the bazaar is different already. It's too commercialized. It's too expensive. So all, when we forget about that, how how we can make it like heritage kuehs, everything. But now all the bazaar selling fries and burgers that we don't really need. We need all that heritage kuehs. That is like, oh, I like to have some cendol here. I like to have kueh dadar. Not that, or the nasi or the cook. How I feel, Then after that, yes, it's changed. Okay, when customers come to my shop, they have their because I have a service of tailoring when I started. Okay, so that's how I do tailoring services, and then how I help my customer to choose their kebayas or their baju kurung. Then so after that, they recommend their sisters, their brothers, everything. This is all through family. Then slowly, other people came in, and then they're also interested in what I have. So I have in retail in the shop. Then now people will come there. I will see that the young generation, and then some of the kebaya awareness, because of the kebaya is already intangible inscribed into the intangible cultural heritage. So the youngsters who doesn't want to wear kebaya now want to wear kebaya. Even now kebaya is already accepted, in which is, I think, accepted when they wear to work. They can wear it, in a modern way. So I think it is. So the youngsters wanted to wear kebaya for their racial harmony. Even started from the 5 years old. They say, I want to wear kebaya. So the needs are actually broadened. Then so some people go there to see the Sultan Mosque, to see how that place is. You can go to Haji Lane and have your pub, all those. Then when you step aside a few walks away, you can go to Sultan Mosque, which is very serene. So that is two different, which is two different places. Yeah. And then now the youngsters, they hang out at Kampong Glam, at the Bai Sarbat, and then all those Zamzam, or I think more to those behind near Aliwal Street. There's a restaurant there. So the youngsters go and lepak there. So there is like family, and then youngsters, and loads of bus of tourists. Take picture and go.
Great. Yeah.
I have to say that.
Okay, I think that's interesting discussion on segment 2, that the authenticity is really something that is important, and also again we talk point about the community, but just Johanes, yes, please.
Well, because it's clearly that the problem is that we don't have community in Kampong Glam right now. Yes, there is a lot of visitors, there's a lot of tourists. Kebaya has become popular, but it become like Hanfu in China. Everybody will wear that and then walking around and take photos. So I say this is a hydroponic community. They don't have roots. So the real problem is how we can return the seeds and the roots back to Kampong Glam. So number one to do is the state. I mean, URA have to rezone that from retail, from business, into residential. With that policy, that allowing residential coming back into that place, then of course, we will have a chance to create the new community. And how to create new community? Community new doesn't have to be new because you can bring your friends, your whatever, the present people are still there. It's become the anchor. In Japan, there is a scheme called Living National Treasure. So the government give incentive, give money to masters. Master in batik, master in songkok, master in whatever. So they can train and continue to promote the product. They can open a school. So it's become like a home industries. So we are trying, by having the community back into that place, you can start the bottom-up community empowerment, economic empowerment. But of course, Singapore always say, well, the plan price is too expensive. It's from the money side. So I think the problem with this discussion since the beginning, because you choose the term retail
Yes.
as the starting point, not community, right? So you already jump the gun. You already go into, this has to be economically viable. Kampong Glam is gentrified. Kampong Glam should be the economic machines, not kampong. So that's why it's a contradiction with the name. Haji Lane is become like that because Haji Lane not supposed to be like that. Haji Lane is the place when Haji pilgrimage from Indonesia, from Nusantara, before they change shapes to Penang, they stop over here. And from Penang, they stay around the Aceh Mosque before to go to Medina. So when they return, they come back to Penang and then come back to Haji Lane, not Orchard Road, and stay there and become Haji. That's why it's called Haji. And they are not Arab. They are Johanes. They are Bugis. They are people from all over Nusantara. So Haji Lane is supposed to be hotels, yeah? Because they say hotels. It's supposed to be a retail. It's supposed to be something related to this business, and also next to Sultan Mosque. And even you talk about functions, reprogramming, you're not supposed to sell alcohol there. Pub, clubbing. So there is a lot of inconsistency in terms of the place name, long historical meaning of that, because we only think about the present layers and the economic value for the future, but not reconnect. That's why I say this hydroponic is not even hydroponic, it's become bubble tea now. Because it's for exploitations. And the shell that is empty will remain as a shell. Of course, we can do conservations, but it's only physical conservations. So it's a zombie without the real soul. So I think the discussion should be driven not just because of retail, because so-called economic activity can happen after that and become a niche economy. That you can only buy original songkok there, the only original batik there, original food there, that you cannot find anywhere. And this competitive advantage come out from the so-called the authenticity of the place. And the authenticity of the place means authenticity of the people and the businesses there. Not just import, export, whatever, you can find any, that's why you are getting fed up with all these toys, right? Hello Kitty lah, whatever, this doo-doo boo-boo, ever. Like, you know, I want to start learning from the Gen Z also. But something that is very special, made in like ketupat, yeah, you cannot find anywhere. And then that botok. And then Kebaya dolls.
There you go.
Right? So I think the discussion and then I think the thinking and the contribution actually is a proposal to URA rezoning.
Brilliant.
And then you want to make money elsewhere. Transfer of development right elsewhere.
Or make money with something that are already authentic as well, right?
Well, you know, the price of the shop house is more expensive than condominium.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but make it affordable for local, not foreigners paying that. Because the things that deliver at the price of the refurbished shop house actually is for foreigners. But foreigners maybe will fall in love to Singapore and become new citizens here. So it's add into the so-called, by changing the rules, regulations, tenure, functions programming, we can improve a lot. So I think we have the opportunity because URA already opened up the gate by saying, let's talk. And it's become like bottom-up, opening up to the bottom-up initiatives through these place planning things, right? So the website is already there. The people are here, including you, are very active. But now is the choice whether you want to drive it into an economic opportunity, retails, or to community-based, to regrow the root. So it's become roots program, not hydroponic program or bubble tea program anymore. I don't know, that is my position, right?
Yeah.
It seems easy, but of course, it depends on the will of the people. Because I still believe that people who love Kampong Glam, who already know Kampong Glam more than 15 years, are still around. And time is running up because those people are getting old, maybe move on to different directions. So if we don't move fast enough, then we will lose again the momentum.
That's well said. Thank you. Okay, let's get into next segment, which is the systemic tensions. I would like to ask to Prof. Johanes and Monique, what happens when a place grows from community's need, but then gets over-designed or over-curated later? Is Kampong Glam showing sign of that shift? I think you touched point on some of the parts already, but with Prof. Widodo. What do you think, Monique?
Yeah, I think I do think that probably Kampong Glam is also facing the same, like it's over designed and over curated. I like the ideas and the words you mentioned, like co-creations, and I think that's also what we did in Kampung Doli. In Kampung Doli, we still have the people, like the people are still there. So it was still the starting of Kampung Doli. But even getting the stories, like getting the story from the people who live there, and then their relatives, the previous generations, like how do we preserve that storytelling into the kampung? I think that's how do we curate it in the more that is curated by the people. Again, it's not like over curated by who, like for who. But if we curate it by the people, so they tell their story. So I think like what you mentioned about your friend who's selling that previously, and if we still have the network, like how do we still keep that story within Kampong Glam? The generations we cannot control, right? Generations will change, and I think, but if we can still keep the storytelling, we keep the soul, and how the placemaking and how the place growth, which is curated by the people. I think that probably something that we can still sort of trying to do. And then another that I thought was quite interesting as well, like you mentioned about like how we can create like a Kampung Glam is about like the craft, and how we can bring that the original, like the craft, like the traditions back. But how do we also like tie in? We cannot stop the whale. The whale will still be there, like the markets and the demands. But how do we also tie in with the small medium industry? Like we were working on Kalang with Iwan and Xiaoling, and how maybe there could be like a co-creations between the industry and the craft, and how that could actually create something that is more sustainable. Because I think if we don't look into that, then it will get over curated again. Then they have no chance to like to survive the whale, right? Like, so how do we actually help creating that layers? I think that's that could be interesting for Kampong Glam.
If we borrow the concepts of before, at the beginning, the master plan of Singapore called Garden City is heavily curated, following the ideology, the beautifications and so on. And then at a certain point of time, it's become city in the garden. But still, the word garden is there. But now, it's city in nature. So the policy is rewilding. Make Singapore jungle again. Because it's cheaper, right? The plant is native plants, you don't need maintenance, and biodiversity return. In an US campus, I see now 20 chicken now roaming around. I saw snake yesterday and spiders because of the rewilding policies inside the campus, replanting the trees. Lee Kuan Yew already said, cut one tree, replace by 5. Right? So I think we should looking into this by using this metaphor like rewilding into the so-called making Kampong Glam a breeding ground again. Relieve, the rules. Give them a bit freedom. And if the people there can, that's why rezoning is important. And also the kind of permits, building permit, that can use for mixed use. You can produce a small industry there. You can produce food there. Then naturally it will come back slowly. Naturalizations, rewilding the city. Because if we can do it with plants, why can't we do it with community as well? Right? There's several a good example from outside the countries. People like in Kawagoe Sea in Saitama in Japan. It's a small town. There's a lot of heritage building. So the community there, the local, not so many, youngsters bond together and form an associations. And these associations develop rules and regulations. Not official rules, social rules. But social rules also considering what types of roof, what types of color can be used in the building and so on. Then the member of this association is including people who work in the government. So people who want to open something have to consult this group. It's like neighborhood group, but they have more than just social relationship, but they can recommend unwritten rules. And this will become the basis of the city hall to give approval. And it works well because you build up the so-called the immunity and the inner strength of the community. They are not considered as object, but as a subject. So the local community become as like have a pride over the place. This is the place that I grow. So I guess they want to defend this. So the role of the government should be less and less and less until they reach the balance. So trust the people. I think we don't need to wait until 5G, right? I think the 4G government is already have a very open attitudes towards this kind of initiatives. Yeah, it started from before during Ko Chok Tong time about the Singapore dialogue, right? We have this. It's not just a forum group discussions, but it's more than that. Even the master plan for art, that is also happened from that street, Aliwal Street. The master plan number 2 or whatever, the second master plan, is also give more freedom, more incentives. So the money is there. The government is now listening government, not top-down government anymore. And how we use this chance actually to heal. It's not as a healing process. Not necessarily placemaking. Yes, placemaking is still important, but start also introducing the placekeeping policy. And to keep the place, you need to keep the people. Right? The word city actually is related to citizens. The word of politics is related to polis, and polis in Latin means, in Greek, means people. So politics mean for the benefit, for the well-being of the people. So it's a democratic process. So in change a mindset that the democracy in Singapore is developed, it's not about PAP or Workers' Party or those political parties, no, but how to empower individuals to become more confident in terms of building business. And that means sometimes is losing some of those very strict rules. More relaxed lah. Chok Tong already said last time, Bohemian community, remember Ko Chok Tong? We are Bohemian, we are cosmopolitan, we are kampung spirit. Yeah. But it's only lip service, without any loosening up of some of the very strict rules. right? Even to keep the wooden floor in the shop house is very difficult because the fire regulation doesn't allow. When you want to touch it, you have to turn it to concrete.
Yes.
Our students repair Ama stall in in Pulau Ubin. Then when we try to rebuild that with wood, and then the government say, no, you have to replace it by concrete and steel. And how this Ama stall selling drinks, it's lost the authenticity just because of the regulations. And thank you to Desmond Wong because he's part of the Friends of Pulau Ubin, so the politicians have to give some, helps, so not to apply a certain rule. So it is possible in Singapore to avoid that. Use your MP, do this before elections as part of the goodies. Like, so you know how to play politics here, okay? We are not voting for the opposition for the sake of changing the government, but to say more goodies and more something that is following our wish, right? So this is a small town, so we know each other. We know people in URA. We know people in PCA. We know people in Redas. We know people in business. We all friends here. So it's just a matter how to make this happen together. Great.
It's interesting. Okay, what about you, Madam Choon-Fah? What lessons can planners and designers learn from how Kampong Glam complex organically evolve? Should we design more unfinished or adaptable buildings, or should we design at all?
I think you need. Okay.
Yes, you need to.
Okay. I think gentrification is something that will happen unless you intervene because it's subject to market forces. And so now there's tension between gentrification, between rents. But when you think about it, is it actually rents? I always think that you're able or you're willing to pay a higher rent if you do more sales, if you can get value out of it. So it's not a cost, it is a value and what you get out of it. So that's a tension, and in a way, tensions are not bad. In fact, I think tensions there are healthy tensions and there are unhealthy tensions. So the healthy tensions really bring about a discipline, more dynamic, but it doesn't mean that always has to go to the highest and best use, and then in that process, it loses its soul. So it's really about striking that balance, right? Heritage versus contemporary, over tourism, that you don't see what is local, what is Kampong Glam, back to the Bugis. Then you walk through certain areas. It's just people take Instagram photographs and off they go. That doesn't capture at all. Space, affordable space. And who are we targeting? Who is Kampong Glam for? I think that's a basic question. There's so many people. Kampong Glams belong to all of us. Who does it belong to? What should it be? There are people who live there, who work there. There are also people who come and visit to want to experience what Kampong Glam is about. And that includes tourists. So I think even within these groups, there are people with different experiences. People who want to go there to have a nightlife. People who want to have the quiet part. So how do we then bring this whole thing back? And it's more like adapting. How do we adapt it? And whether we like it or not, the dollars and cents comes in. So it's like, how do you transit if somebody has already owned an asset there? So I think it is really a very difficult balance. But I think what will work is really that community. If there's a grounds up that will help to drive and appreciate their culture, then that you drive the demand back, that will support the businesses, that will support one another. So I think that is perhaps one way. And I know, Park, you have something to say.
Yes. We were talking about rent, right? And
Sorry, I can't get away
the
from
problem with
money.
other city, like in Malacca, it happened gentrification because of the abolished the land rent control. So land rent control can be replaced by something else. You keep the rent, but you give incentive, or people are doing well, right? So if it works for, say, additional GFA because you preserve Golden Mile, or $1 million because you make your building net zero energy, green mark certified, You can use taxpayer money to incentivize people that following the government policy. But the government have to have the policy first to allow that as become a community breeding ground again, right? So this is egg and chicken again, right? So it's not just about community empowerment, but the state also have to be reciprocally response to that.
I agree that you can shape behavior.
Yes.
You can start to grow something, which is what we're trying to do in Arts House, to provide spaces in Goodman Arts Center to help the young artists that space so that they can grow, and also to introduce communities to come in. So if you go to Aliwal Arts Center, you would see a lot of things that will not happen. Some of them are traditional crafts, but again, it's a very small part of it. We give subsidized rents, we give a lot of subsidy and a lot of support. But it's like you need to draw more people in. And currently, I was just having a chat with a colleague in US. He is from Mexico. And he was saying that we don't really have that crafts in Singapore. The depth is not there. The variety is not there. And Singapore is such a young country. So where does that come from? So that's something that we need to work on. And I think policies, incentives, as you rightly said, will do it. But at the end, that is one part. Who would, as parents, okay, I'm very proud to say my son is a musician. But how many Chinese mother or father would allow your son to be a musician? He has very good results. He can go to an Ivy League school, but he's passionate about music because he said music makes people happy. And he said, when I see people happy, I'm happy. And I thought he's happy as a lark. But I said, son, you have to pay your rent. So that is the thing that many of them, they are very passionate. I would say for a lot of retailers too, it's passionate. So when we rent out to some of the, let's say F&B, this is a talk of town. Many of them, they're passionate about that pastries, for instance, or let's say your restaurant. But coming from our side, let's say I was previously from a consultancy firm. You need to understand what's your cost of materials, right? Your raw materials and your manpower. For F&B, you need to do your table turns. How many table turns do you need? And what is the price of your food? Then you work out, can you afford or not? But quite a lot of, because the entry barrier to F&B is low, many of them come with tons of passion, tons of dreams. But it's hard work because you have to look at the front of house, the back of house. Are you willing to do that day in, day out? So it is a very tough business. And so then that actually has to come in, that people have to be realistic about it. So not many people take the path less traveled. And my son tells me, Mom, I know this is a privilege that I can do it. You will not be able to do it in your generation. And I said, okay, but you still have to pay your own rent. But he has a safety net. So I think that is a problem that's the reality of it. Yeah. Until we make it such that the crafts are so well respected, we are willing to pay $80 instead of $25. We are willing to appreciate that. So that's why I say all of us have a role to play in supporting that business.
Yeah.
Basically, that is how to value the intangible, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Now everything value is always related to tangible things. But how to value intangible, how to value passions, how to value love, how value well-being. You should be able to convert that into numbers. Then you can convince the developers, you can convince the investors.
Let's say I totally agree, but you see there's no free lunch. It's like, who is going to pay for it? Like in NUS, a lot of the students will say, oh, we want this, we want that. I said, who's going to pay for it? Oh, the government will pay. I said, where does the government get its funding from? Taxpayers. Who are the taxpayers? You are going to be the taxpayer in future. So then you need that healthy tension, which is why I said money is not all bad, because it gives you that discipline to say, what is it that I want to trade off? Or you can say that, well, we don't need to have this. Let's say I give you an example. I work on gardens by the bay. Why do we want to have a garden in the CBD? You can have a white side The minute you rezone the garden, it comes down to $7 per square meter at that time. But then you see value. How do we look at this? It's not just the land cost, and we came to a stage where we had to go to MOF to get the funding. So then we had a wonderful team in NParks. And they said, well, we have no more money to pay your consultants. But we were all passionate about this because every great city has a great park. And this park should be for us, for our children and our children's children. So how do you look at it? Then we say, okay, you have hollowed this out, but we know that a good park will increase the value of land around it. So it was evidence-based, it was research-based. And we calculate, it's almost like a donut effect. You lose the cost, the land value come down here, but you're going to collect it back from all these, from increase in property tax, your stamp duty, and so on. Not to mention health and wellness, and a place to bring people together. So it's how we look at costs.
Yeah.
And we should be looking at cost and also value. Doesn't mean that you cannot measure something that it does not have a value. So I think the key is very often we don't know how to measure certain things and we think that it has no value.
Okay, can I ask Madam Ratianah about this value change as well? Did you do any change on your, or is there any change on your business based on this kind of a conversation of
I
value?
must change. Yes, I must change. I started like a service business, and then when there's a lot of fabric shops, on the Arab Street, what I do is that I sell accessories. Because there's no accessories there. I said, okay, let's mix this clothing and accessories, because normally shop will only sell clothes and accessories. I say, I will mix this together. Then after that, I go to Kandahar Street. Okay, my shop is upstairs. So for a few years, I'm not making anything. But because I have regular customer who come for service, then they go up there, then they buy my clothes, Then for a few years, we are surviving. Okay, then that's after that we managed to get the shop below at Kandahar Street, and then I said, this is a food street, so I have to be aware of what actually is happening there. What are the customers? Why do they go to this street? So maybe I started too early to have a cafe. So Sarbat is selling 90 cent or 80 cent coffee, and I'm selling $3.50. Artisan coffee. So, and people buy kueh $1, and I have a cake which is like about $8.90. So it's a bit too early, but it's a learning lesson for me. I have sales which is only one day $10, But my husband and my family support is very important. So so it's not every day that it's not about profit. It's just still survival. Be survival, be there, carry on. Then I said, okay, maybe we are too early to do all this. If you see, actually, I do have the menu, but it actually taught me to be resilient. I do not know what is this artisan coffee. I learned how to make it and how to do cappuccino. I learned. I do not know what is bread, like those with those Western bread. I forgot the name, sorry. Yeah, I learned to make it. Yeah, I learned to make it. Then I said, okay, let's look around for other places. I just said, okay, we survive here. Okay, then let's just pray to God. Just pray to God. Then I just make a wish. I just wish if I have a shop in Bussorah Street. Then it was answered. But it doesn't come easy. It was answered. Then I go to Bussorah Street, and that's where I started my business. And every day I will wake up, what is next? I cannot survive with this only. So when the COVID came, all business, nobody can come because I'm a retail shop. So what made me survive is actually the local people here. They are my I say supporter that make me survive through COVID. Where? Because I make masks. When people buy those throwaway masks, but I make a good batik mask. So that is how it is sustainable. You don't throw. You don't. A lot of people throw. Then we make masks, and that the schools, they ordered, and then support from all the locals. You'll be surprised. It's not only about tourists. It's actually how our people, whoever you are, you live in Singapore, okay, Ratianah, I want to order, even though I know it is expensive, but I like it. I give it to my friend. I give it. So that is how I change, and now I'm worried. What is the next 5 years? What is tomorrow? Because now a lot of commercial kebayas.
Yes.
Yeah, so I have to be different. Every time have to be different, improvise. So keep on thinking until every day I have to wake up and then my brain is tired.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because we're gonna talk about that then on the next segment, which is rethinking the future, right?
Yeah, I'm worried
Yeah.
every day.
So there's a first question for Prof. Johanes, Monique, and Madam Choon-Fah. If you were to evolve the complex again, based on current needs, what might we change? Not demolish or replace, but relayer or anything. Maybe start from Monique.
It is about like reimagining the future of Kampong Glam. We know that the now is like with the industry as well. There's the next gen, and the not just 4G, 5G. So how do we co-create like this Kampong Glam, the craft, like the traditional craft, but also with the future? We always like we read stories like how people reinvent like the traditional way, but also marrying with the future, like the technology. So how that actually could co-create between like the different players, like in Kampong Glam, but also maybe relate to the small medium industry as well, and also with the how the technology could help logistics, for example, like how it could actually help to co-create and make the Kampung Glam like the tradition becomes easier, like it becomes more so it can survive, like it becomes the breeding ground again. So I think that's kind of like how like if we were like relayering on the Kampung Glam, and Kampung Glam cannot survive on its own. Like we all have a role to play, and how do we bring in that co-creations with the other industries as well into Kampung Glam as the pride of Singapore?
Do you want to add anything, Prof?
After co-creations, yes, co-creation is important. Then we need to do a co-development. Co-development means that the people given more power in what they want to say, and also the government will reciprocally give this more freedom by changing the land use, changing the master plan, and also giving more incentive. See, if you say about value, right, we can give CDC voucher $600, $800 very easily. Our reserve is good enough actually to reimburse or to give incentive to people who really want to grow this one. And even there is a voucher, right, for culture. I don't know whether how many people use that, but it can be tweaked and then use this for developing this. And in terms of master planning, let's make a donut. Suppress the development. I mean, the give some relief in tax or whatever in Kampong Glam, but let the surrounding area grow. It's already there. There's a lot of tall buildings, a lot of development around here. So to make a donut is not that difficult. It's just a matter of the political will. Yeah? The people's wills, maybe the people like you have to teach at the schools, have to open speak in the television, Channel Indonesia. And then, at least you become explanatory, a hero, heroine.
Amazing.
We need
This is the start.
Yes, you should be on TV soon.
Absolutely.
You should be, right?
Me and I have a daughter, Putri. I'm so lucky that she wanted to help me and assist me, and she assists me a lot. Every day I'm in the shop, two of us. I don't have any employer. I only have part-time. So that is what I can afford. Because if with the rental, with the cost, and another additional, Who doesn't want to stay home and, be a business woman, then come at the end of the day? No. But because I feel I have to be in the shop.
Yes.
Yeah, I try. If I do have the time, but I cannot. I cannot afford leaving the shop. I know it's not good, but it's not good because I have to do what I can do better. But I have to run it myself. If
Yeah.
not, yeah,
So I think you
to
should
keep the
start
cost
from-
low. To keep the cost low. Yeah.
I mean, your struggle, your resilience
Yeah.
should be, I think, become like exemplary and become the beginning of the movement in Kampong Glam. It should start from you. And then this forum can be the starting point of
Exactly.
this. And then
Maybe anyone from here from
we need a
P5?
catalyst. And the catalyst start to know a real human being.
The
like you.
CDC voucher is not available. Yeah, I did ask. Yeah, I did ask. Then they said, you are not a HDB, you are not a JTC, this is a private owner, so you don't get it. So people come to my shop, Kakak Ratianah, can
Is
I use
anyone
CDC
can
voucher?
help lobby any
There's
friends,
Kak Ratianah, can I
MT?
use this CDC?
Choose the MP of Kampong Glam.
Cannot. I can't. Yeah, they can't use. Yeah. So there must be like, look
Yes.
at this. Look at this. How this local business, struggle. Yeah. It's not about money making. It's about the passion that we have, and it's not only me. There's many other business. The young people also. They try to make cafe, but they can't because the rental is too high, and they have to work every day. I work every day. There's many years that I work every day. Until recently, we have a 1 day off in Monday. And I think it's not enough, of course. But I have to do it. I have to do it, yeah. So whenever you step in my shop, it's either me or Putri, and sometimes my husband at the back. Because he's retired already, so he got no choice. He have to help me. He's a forced labor.
So means you are in the position actually to identify peoples like you, right?
Yeah.
In Kampong Glam.
Correct.
Bond together, connect together.
Yeah.
And then with the help of each of one here, who can help in whatever way, if you're politicians, if you are CSR, you are giving away CSR, you can talk to the MP to give you CTC eligibility, then it will help this small group of people that is already rooted there to become a trees
True.
and to produce fruits and become a garden.
Correct. There's a lot of restriction to us.
The young and the not so old, I say, look at that horizon. Follow that rainbow. Go right in it. That message is for us here and you. For every one of us here.
Brilliant. What about you, Madam Choon-Fah? You have some images here, actually.
Yeah, actually, when I walk around, I just feel that we have so many roads and cars. This is a place for people. So maybe it's time for us to reclaim back the roads for people and really live, yeah. The outside is really our living room. So we should be able to not just confine to the shop houses or wherever it is, but to be able to go out and know that it is a safe place for us to be. Because now I see a lot of tensions and, in one of the arts festival, this car park,
Yeah.
there are a few of these car parks.
Yes.
And so they had a wayang kulit on Sang Nila Utama, who came in Harley Davidson.
Oh.
And so all of us were like sitting on the curb, sitting on the stools, sitting on the mat. And it's so nice just to be able to sit where you're not supposed to sit. Have you ever had that feeling that you want to break some rules in Singapore? Anyway, I tell the students, it's okay to break the rules. Sometimes the rules are there, but it's no longer relevant.
It's better than substation, right?
Yeah.
A substation is very restrained. But here, it's not. So I think it's a time to revive that kind of feeling.
Yeah. I kind of like breaking rules every now and then. So because very often we don't question enough why the rules are there. You talk about all those restrictions. So we have to go back and say, well, times have changed. At that time, those were the rules because they were necessary. But now it's not necessary. So we always have to question and give that feedback And I think as a community, there's strength in numbers.
Yeah.
That if we can show that, hey, there is a good reason, then I think the government would be listening. Well, I was thinking about reconnecting people and places. I just find that Kampong Glam, to me, you have the MRT. To me, it really starts from Esplanade, when we have the history of Raffles Hotel. Then you have the British, was that the club, right? The NCO club, and all the way down. There's a lot of stories that we can tell leading to Kampong Glam. And it's not just Kampong Glam. It's much larger than that. And I think that storytelling part, we don't tell our stories very well. There are so many layers of stories in Kampong Glam. Just listening to you and listening to Park, they come alive. But how do we tell our stories? We go there, we just look at it. Doesn't. So I have this little owl. It was in Dijon. I like getting lost. So I'd buy a ticket. My husband and I, we bought a ticket, and then we took a train from town to town. And we said, oh, I want to understand where my mustard comes from. Okay, let's go Dijon. And so there are these owls where you visit a lot of the old places, but it gives you a trail. Then you have Triangle that gives you a trail. And I think likewise, there's so many stories in Kampong Glam. And we don't tell it well enough. And just listening to you, it was like, wow, it's so exciting. It excites me. And I think our back lanes, because it's in a grid format, and I see a lot of people cutting through the back lanes. So I think we can activate our back lanes. Messy, yes it is. Getting lost and then discovering something. Because we are so planned, there's no element of surprise. But I did find a surprise, which is a little gaming shop at the back lane. I don't know whether you know where it is. It's at the back lane where everything else is dark, but this shop was open. And this was, just creating places. There aren't many places for you to sit, watch the people go around. And I said, more seats, pocket park, rest and relax, watch the world go by and do nothing. It's almost like-
WCB.
Yeah, it's like almost like a sin to do nothing in Singapore. Every minute, every second, we have to do something.
And what is the end?
Do nothing.
Do nothing.
I mean, I just made it up lah, because I don't have enough
That's good.
space.
Good thing.
So I think there's value in doing nothing and just dreaming, because we were always like objective driven, right? Oh, what's the learning outcome? What's the outcome that we want? And then we go for that. So there's value in getting lost in Kampong Glam, going off the track that is left, the road that's less traveled, and you'll be surprised what we find. The people. And this was in Ueno Park. This old man, he is so amazing. All he did was a pail of water and a mop. And he did this art. And he asks you, oh, which year are you born in? And then he would draw this and start talking to you. Then he pulled his pail away. So I think all this speaks a lot to me. That streets are for people, we can activate, and climate change, free water. Why can't we have nice water? Basically, people to rest, areas to rest. Now it's not. You don't really have a place to rest. Every bit is used up.
Yeah, correct. There's no city.
Yeah. No seating, yeah. So if you want to have social bonds, you want to have community, it's like Georgia O'Cleave, the painter, she says that she likes to paint flowers because flowers are small. So in order to paint them, you need time to get to know the flowers. It's like same as making friends and relationship. You need to invest time. So here is like everybody's busy passing by. You can't form that community. So these are just little thoughts to be a bit lazy, to be a bit laid back
Okay.
in Kampong Glam.
Thank you.
Our initiative that the weekend they close the road. Yeah, okay, that part of the road. Then they make bazaars. I think it's very messy.
Yeah.
And then it is not to the interest of the stakeholders there because they are replicating whatever the stakeholders selling. Yeah. And then now they close the road. But unfortunately, it's not easy for people to access because there's a lot of big, bulky tables.
Yeah.
But because this place should be able to let people free flow, maybe there's seats and more for people to maybe to dance. Yeah. You can have.
Yeah.
We have a group of plant people who bring their plant there and sell, like there's a home group of plant or they can sell there, which is I think for the green. Yeah. So I think it is once it is like people thought like you use up that space for dining. I think it's not right. Yeah.
Okay, and this is the last question I had. What is one thing that Kampong Glam teaches us about how cities truly function at ground level? What do you think about Johanes Widodo?
Is the resilience is still there. Regardless the demolition, what happened around there, Kampong Glam is still there.
Yep.
Is abused, is gentrified many times. Is whatever, you paint whatever colors, but it still survive. So I think one thing is because of divine interventions. The mosques are still there. The former palace, whatever its name, is still there. The graveyard are still there at the back. The mandala are still there. What I mean by mandala is the center of the so-called the auspicious center. One banyan tree is still there. It used to be two, the Sultan cake, and still survive. Although the Pondok Jawa is gone, but the space are still there. And the memory are still there. And people like you are still there. So I think the learning point here is the city is an organism. It's very difficult to kill the strong place. So place is not completely depleted from the memory. And because thanks to these historical layers from the distant past, even before the arrival of Thomas Stamford Raffles, although the story is not clearly told yet, but there's so many people who can tell the story. It's just a matter how we can compile that together and then put it into a feasible platform. We have social media, we have all this digital AI, whatever, name it. It's very easy, actually, everything is still there. So the things, if you ask me, what is the wisdom that we learn from there, is that not just resilience, but the intangible is permanent.
I see.
The intangible is permanent. And the tangible is temporary. Right? So, and then we can flip the value that we should keep the intangible, to keep the soul. Die. Yeah, you cannot let this soul leave the body. Yeah. And then it's not yet gone completely. People are still there, you are still there. So it's a matter how to heal, how to reconnect. Let's plant the hydroponic into ground. So we don't kill the hydroponic. It's good. But let the hydroponic become a real trees. And then the ingredient is all there already, The previous slide before this.
Yep.
It's all there. You can go back to one slide. This is there. You have Kampong Glam Alliance already. And you are part of it. There's already a platform. All this is already there. So what else that you need? It's just a matter of small push from Broadway Malyan.
Absolutely.
Because you
love
start
to.
this with number one, right? After this, you start the ball rolling. What is number two next? Something is not just talk, but walk the talk. How to make it happen? Make a calculated project. Stop all traffic. Talk about CDC vouchers. Something practical that can undo all these hurdles bit by bit. Then you start the healing process, like acupuncturing.
Yeah.
Let the chi start to work. You use feng shui things. It's healing process. I think that is the thing that probably that we can do immediately after this.
Thank you. What about, do you have any?
Yeah. Well, the
Anything to add?
Kampong Glam Alliance was started by one gentleman from the carpet shop who was a PR in Singapore. So from one person, he started, you talked about movement, but
Yes.
so this is one person can do a lot. But it takes so much effort to bring everything together. And this is one of the reasons, I can't remember what is it called, but they basically gathered people together,
Yes.
the community, to give feedback, and they have workshops. What do you want Kampong Glam to be?
Yes.
You know, to involve that community so that there's ownership, there are diverse views on what to do. And Aki Fest also, I think that was a continuation of that. So it's like, I think we need to speak up. Very often we don't speak up enough.
Yep.
And there is value in speaking up, even if you think that nothing is going to change. But if we think nothing is going to change and we don't speak up, then they wouldn't know. So when my property tax increased, I wrote in. And my friends tell me, no, you know, there's no point writing in because your property tax has already increased. I said, yeah, I know. I still want to have a voice, and I have a voice. And so I think that's something for each of us to have a voice, and collectively we can have a movement. It will gather that. And we see a lot of grounded up movement now in a lot of things. But of course, our heart must be in the right place. And also to understand that it must be equitable. Somebody's paying for it. Who are the stakeholders? Who is going to be the giver? Who is going to be the taker? And at the end, it's a series of trade-off. And how do we make sure at the best as we can, who can be the winners? Actually, this is the Kampong Glam Alliance. The first thing that struck me was the Ministry of Finance is not here, the taxpayers. So they should be part, because money is part of that conversation. Whether it's giving incentive.
Talk to Lo Yan Ling. She's also responsible for all this, right? Museums and all this. She's in the finance.
Yeah.
So I mean, all our friends here. We can easily talk. Yeah, it doesn't have to be demonstrations again.
Oh, no, not demonstration, we're peaceful people.
Do you want to add, Monique?
I think just being here from Broadway, like next to Kampong Glam, what I learned is culture grounds the community. I know that Prof. Widodo talk about the hydroponic, like the community is not grounded, but it's when we have the culture strong, like in Kampong Glam, it's there is always an evolving storytelling. There is always like the community is there, and like the mosque, for example, like every Friday we will meet like people for lunch, like not just people who work around Kampong Glam, but also from other parts of Singapore. They'll come to Kampong Glam. We can meet for lunch, and then they go to mosque after that, right? Like, so if there is this community culture grounds the community, and then how we evolved around it with the evolving storytelling as well in the place.
Thank you. I think it's a good conversation, and I would like to invite our guests here to ask questions. Have two questions. Please introduce yourself and
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Aji, and people at Broadway, Malyan, for doing this and for making Kampong Glam the first in your series. My name is Faiza Jamal, and I'm heartened by this because I actually live in Kampong Glam. I was born and I was raised, and I'm still here. My dad was born in this. I'm born in the same house that my dad was born in, and now my children still live in the very same house. This has been 4 generations. So, Professor Widodo, you'll be happy to know that at least there's one family left in Kampong Glam that's still there, living, breathing, and doing what we can to keep it alive. It's a very strange situation to be in because when I say I live in Kampong Glam, most people have no idea what I'm talking about. They think I'm lying because they say, what do you mean you live in Kampong Glam? Nobody lives here. So in my bid to take back my story, I actually have done walks of Kampong Glam for the last 21 years because I believe it's important to tell my story myself, especially coming from the smallest and the least known of the Malay communities in Singapore. We are Banja from South Kalimantan, coming as diamond merchants. Most people don't know anything about us, thus the importance of me doing this. And now my children and I have started a music collective because Kampong Glam has always been known as a hub for many things, among which is music legacy. And we do that, we do our stories and songs, we do our storytelling through music and songs. So this is deeply personal to me, and there are many things that have been discussed that I felt, and I'm so glad, Professor Widodo, that you push back, because there's a lot of romanticization of Kampong Glam, and most people only know Kampong Glam as Haji Lane. That's not Kampong Glam at all. Most people don't know Jalan Pisang, Jalan Kredit, Jalan and all the other bits of it. What I call the non-hip part of Kampong Glam where I live, thank goodness, not in the circus that Kampong Glam has become. So as you can imagine, I have lived through what I would call the best of Kampong Glam in the 60s and the 70s and the very worst of Kampong Glam right up to today. So forgive me if I don't share a lot of your romanticization, and also because everything that you said has actually been said by many of us with agencies for the last 15 years, and a lot of us are really, really extremely deflated and frustrated because most times these views are not quite being bought into because there's no money in it at that time. Slowly, it's probably happening, and I hope that will change. So my question to you, Professor Widodo, is, as a historian, and this is personal to me because I tell my story because I think it's important to know where you come from. Because in Malay culture, we have a saying called "tak kenal maka tak cinta," right? If you don't know, how do you love? How does it fit with you with people like me telling my story and then finding that people commodify my story? Because to me, there's a thin line in the sense that you want to make Kampong Glam exciting, interesting, without knowing, without understanding that 200 years ago, in the time of my grandfather, it's already exciting. People have already been entrepreneurial. And the idea that Kampong Glam is just a bunch of craft makers, that's not true at all. There's a lot of people there who are extremely good at business, extremely good at academics, extremely good at philosophy and intellectualism. There's so many layers to it. So if we do not know where we come from, then how do we go on talking about all this, bringing back what exactly? What exactly? Because being the only person left in the community, there is really no community. There are a community of people within each neighborhood, within each business. Say Ratianah will have her own community of Kebaya lovers, and Tahir will have their own community, and Blue Jets will have their own community. But the communities do not intersect. Even the Blue Jets people, the people who have businesses in Haji Lane have no clue about the people in Jalan Pisang, Jalan Pinang. So to me, there's a lot more that needs to be done before we can even talk about placemaking, when we don't even know the values that we as Kampong Glam folks that have lived through as a community where everybody knew everybody. Doors were always open. You were never a stranger in the real sense of the word. So my concern is, how do we bring back that value first without even thinking of the money bit? I
Be a
wonder if you have
teacher.
any views about that.
Be a teacher.
I am already.
Yes, and I voluntarily opened a course on the history of Singapore. And in my class, I said the history of Singapore started 2,000 years ago, not 200 years ago. Because of this 2,000 years ago, then you can tell about all these layers. And another thing, and I don't believe in textbook. I believe in walking tour. So my former students can testify that they say, get out from the classroom, let's walk. So in my history class, I maybe only spend 3-4 days for sessions in the classroom. The rest we met in Kampong Glam, we met in Singapore River, we met in Tiong Bahru. And then for 2 hours, we just walk around and then have a discussion under the trees in the kopitiam. And then for the assignment, I give them a site, whatever, random site, not well-known site, and let them to do this layering analysis. That is what offer to read us, right? And then this layering analysis is looking into the old maps, talking to old people. And the submission is not a paper. Submission is a video recording. They have to interview people. So that I can beat AI, I can beat ChatGPT. Because most of the submission will be or authentic, right? And then they have to present to public. So it means that the pedagogy, the teaching have to be changed from the spoon feeding into bring them, right, push them into the swimming pool so they can swim. So in your role, I think as you guide a lot of walking tour, it's exactly what I'm doing now. You can testify, right? We force them from Redas to walk for 3 hours in Fort Canning under the hot sun, and they're happy. I mean, the change should start from education, should start from the methodology to teach. But of course, you must create a snowballing effect. Yeah, you cannot just do it randomly for tourists because they will just come and go. but start from the local schools. Work with the madrasah. You know, the school is quite important. Look for the local communities and groups. Organize walking tour with them. Organize workshops. And then you start to spread the seeds. And these seeds, well, if you have 100 and then only 5 grow into trees, that's good enough. So this will be the multiplication effect that will happen from there. So I'm quite optimistic, although I'm here already for 25 years. I think the seed has already grown everywhere. I have former students in URA. I have former students at CLC. If you want to do these community things, just talk to Elaine. And Elaine is my former student in my UD program. So keep doing this, keep spreading doing whatever you like, and then who knows, you know? It will not just go unnoticed. Yes, the job of a teacher is like a fertilizer. I always call myself fertilizer. I will disappear. But the trees that come out from that fertilizer give you satisfactions and the purpose of life.
Fantastic.
Right?
Okay.
Maybe you can come to my class and help.
Teach as well. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. Not from the textbook, not from the people from England who write history about Singapore. No, but history is written by people who was there. Yes.
Okay. Another question, Ernesto. You please with
Still from Broadway, Malyan. I think I've heard a lot of discussion about old business people or leaving or not the children are not following up on the business or industry. Is there room for outsiders, the young entrepreneur or craftsman or what do we call this, artisanal people are trying to make in Singapore? Is there room for there in Kampong Glam if they are not able to afford the rents because it's so expensive and everything, they don't live there? I'm sure there's an opportunity to for this young people to be able to be there and become part of this community.
maybe
The locals?
Madam, yeah, maybe Madam Ratianah wanna answer?
For the youngsters, yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Is there any opportunities for youngsters to join the community of Kampong Glam despite of the price of the rent and so on? What do you experience?
they build the business here.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, they have to know what is their heritage business. A lot of them came in with modern, all those new businesses. But if they want to learn the heritage business, they should identify what heritage business they want to learn, so that they can, there's always an opportunity, because the youngsters do not want to have old business like heritage business. They always want something like Western, modern business. So making them aware that heritage business can survive, can be innovate into a new business. That is the mentality, because they always come here, they want to set up a cafe, pasta, everything, but they forgot that making kueh is actually can be very good business also. You have to do it correctly. You have to, like Ratu Lemper. Look, this is a traditional business. Then when they came in, they make the traditional business, innovate it into a modern one, and they did good. Yeah.
So the blend between traditional and modern
But
would be more
things needs
interesting.
money, right?
Yeah, needs money.
Exactly.
So my question is whether Kampong Glam Alliance able to do a crowdfunding, use this platform, and then the CSR coming in, banyan tree coming in, whatever textile industry coming in, and then with the pool of money, we build a trust, Kampong Glam Trust. And this trust, you don't expect money from the government. You start to support all this, like people outside. Because in Japan, the government take care with using this living treasure, right? Incentive. But if our government doesn't want to do it, we start from the bottom up first. Crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, CSR. Then, if it's successful, I think the government will see it as an opportunity. And the top-up money will come later. But it must be something to start with.
And the community adopting this umpire now.
Yes.
So it is outside of Singapore.
Yes, and then give them scholarships. Give them tuition fee, free tuition fee and accommodations. Let them do the homestay inside Kampong Glam. And maybe they become like to invest here, to become a PR here, getting married here, producing more babies for Singapore, and become more cosmopolitan. So this is what Kampong Glam is the beginning, is that people like to stay and then to grow their roots here.
Another question.
But
Last
nobody
question.
know honey, yeah?
Yeah, no, but exactly.
Sorry, hi. Thanks so much for the discussion. My name is Papna. So for myself, just a little background. I'm Singaporean, so Kampong Glam, I feel like it's where I grew up. So I used to come here when I was in school, college. Like I've seen it grow. I loved it so much that I actually bought my house near. So I'm actually a resident of Kampong Glam near neighborhood. So my question is, I know we've talked a lot about the change, and what I'm hearing is it sounds like it's a bad change that has happened with the tourists, and we need intervention, and shouldn't be like that, shouldn't be like this. That's the sense, majority-wise, is the sense I'm getting. So from my perspective, I have a question. Is change really that bad? I've also seen, from my perspective as the goer to Kampong Glam, as a visitor, definitely not that old, but like, even I call this my hood in a way. This is home. It's become very vibrant. Yes, of course, a little bit too much tourists maybe. I can't get a table at Blue Jazz either. That used to be my spot. There used to be other places which are gone. But then there's so many other new places as well. You as a shop owner here, do you think change has been has this helped your business? And how do we create that balance with change? Because I do feel, there's no free lunch as well. And I've seen it thrive. New businesses have come through. Every time I go, I see a new shop. I feel so proud of this neighborhood to discover for myself. Every time I walk in the street, I'm seeing a new business. I'm seeing a new shop, a new cafe. And I'm also discovering every other day because it's changing. And 15 years ago, it was dead as well. Like, it wasn't this thriving. It was really at the time, as a woman, and I would be like, okay, I better go. I know we feel safe in Singapore, but late at night, it was dead.
Correct.
Right? So I would hear a little bit more on, isn't changed? What do you guys think about that?
Yes, as you can remember, Busra Street was no. Yeah, remember? All the shop closed. Yeah, because the malls all closed. Yeah. So when I had my shop there, I'm the first to stay up late until 8 p.m. and Kampong Glam Cafe. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to go back home. Maybe I'm so happy with my work. But actually, because there are a lot of things to do. But I said, let's open the shop a bit later. So that is the change. Then slowly, you can see everyone is saying, hey, Ratianah open the shop until 8 p.m. So I also want. So they start opening the shop later. And that is where it takes a lot of, people see, they say, oh, the shop is open. You'll come. And then people start dining. 6 o'clock, Busra Street, everyone closed. Arab Street, 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, they all close their shop. Yeah, even now also Arab Street still 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, they are closed. But now see the new shop, the carpet shop is opening. Okay, what changes you have seen is that new shops, current shop, what did you see? Souvenirs.
There is a pineapple tart shop.
Correct. So that's good. That is good. Yeah. Yeah.
So
correct.
feels like very
Good. Yeah. Quite exciting.
really, I'm presuming.
Mhm. And then North Bridge Road area, everything. You see,
Is that bad? Is the question.
if you see slowly, you can see that there's a lot of non-local shop. We have to support local businesses like us. Okay, all the local who try to have their own branding. So look at us, give us the opportunity. When the rental is so high, what, if you ask me what changes a lot is the rent. The rent here. To be, I, I do my business. I don't earn a lot of profit, but my passion is there, and I'm happy to get this kebaya worn by as much ladies as possible, make them love kebaya again. And then now, if I were to rent another shop, it is like crazy, the rent. Crazy, yeah. And now, what shop come in? I saw spa, massage, and then I saw a lot of non-local shop. That is the changes that I don't want. I want to see my own business people, my own local, give them the chance this area, let them grow. I think that is the change that I want. The positive change. Give our local people, our local entrepreneurs, they work so hard. A recent case, the sumo well. I'm so sad because she is my customer. So how hard until she cannot handle. She's a strong woman. I thought she's very nice. She came to my shop. So when it did happen, you say, oh my God, not everybody is strong. Not all Singaporeans, they have their dream. Give them, give them the ever support. And she fall because, what so is that, and whatever reason. So we do not want that case again. Yeah, take a look at ours, then we can, I believe, because, as I told you during COVID, what support me is the local customers. So we can work together and, the youngsters, they have brilliant, good ideas. Like musician of last time, and now the musician of now is the Nadi. Nadi, that brand, what is it? Percussion. See, these are the youngsters. When you give them the opportunity, see how Nadi is good now. Yeah, they always at Aliwa Street practice, and I saw them when they started. Yeah, when they started, I saw them. Then now they said, they are good. I'm so happy for them, and they are so happy for me too.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, please.
I think change is not bad, but this is also learning from the Global Future Cities with UKFCDO and Surabaya. Change is not bad when you do it with people. So, we were doing a lot of activations, like we were doing a lot of change with the community when we were doing the work in Surabaya. We were doing podcast with the people who lives in Surabaya, live in Doli, telling their story. And so it's also a bit of the educations, like how do we promote what is Kampong Glam. So you cannot avoid change. Change will happen, but change have to be with the people in the area. So, and I think when we bring them together, like I learned a lot on the Surabaya project. When you bring them together through the journey, you're unstoppable. Like they're becoming like they're unstoppable. And now we're just like watching from like outside, and like we're still involved, but it's like they're doing it themselves, and then it's becoming the snowballing effect.
I think I'm all for change. There are different kinds of changes. Some changes are good, some changes are not so good. But whether we like it or not, change is here. Otherwise, we become irrelevant. And Mary, you have changed, you have adapted. So that's change too. But holding on to some core values that you believe in, that is relevant, that is supported by the community. So I do, and that brings back to one of my earlier questions. Who is Kampong Glam for? They're the younger people, there are people who are outside, but this is part of Singapore, so we want it too. Then we have residents and people who grew up in Kampong Glam. So it's always that tension that is happening. So I think we need to really respect and see where we can intervene, where we need to, and then have a very light touch or maybe not even touch it. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if I should say this very sensitive thing.
Yes.
Everybody talk about rents are too high. Well, why are rents high? Because our property prices are right. So if an investor who buys it, I give you an example. Okay, We are a REIT mall. We have a lot of unit holders who buy into our REIT. And at my last AGM, one young man came back. Well, not so young. I think he's like younger than me, lah, in his 50s. And he said, I'm retired. I've put all my savings in a few funds and pool my family savings together in a few funds. And one of them is your company. So your DPU, your dividends, means a lot to me because I have to, this is our income. And it kind of, while we know that there's a role for us to play, but what we need to do is to make sure that our retailers are doing good business. Their sales per square foot has to increase. Otherwise, there's no justification for us to increase rent. Because our tenants are not just our tenants, they are our partners. So we work on it together for our mutual success. So I think that is something that we need to take account into. Like in Singapore, for let's say residential, our land component is about 65 to 70% of the total GDP. So we talk about investors, we talk about developers. I just want to share that there are both sides of that coin. So do we want to bring the land prices down, the property prices down, and then the rents can come down? Because there's this mechanism. So we're talking about much bigger ecosystem. But the key to me is we must add value and work together. It's not tenant versus landlord. We are collaborators, we are partners, and where the market requires change, we adapt and we change. It's like what you have done. You have changed, you have adapted because conditions have changed. And the demographics are different.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. I think a lot of things needs to think about, right? And as Prof. Widodo always say, this could be a community for us, right? To start everything and create a great place together, right? Thank you so
Look
much.
at rainbow and go right.
Exactly. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's finish up our discussion tonight. And thank you so much for coming and see you around. Bye-bye.